Hi, my name is Hassan, and this is my USMLE Step 1 experience. First of all, this is a disclaimer that this is only my experience and that it's not applicable to everyone. So I started last January my prep and finished about a month ago, so that makes it a total of 6 months. I studied for about 1,300 hours. I calculated that using an application called it's one of these focus applications like Plenty and Forest and the Pomodoro technique or whatever. Yeah, it sounds stupid, but it really helped me track my progress and stay motivated. I was studying an average of 50 to sometimes, of course, I'd only reached 70 hours per week and last couple of months. In the beginning, I was yeah doing around 50 hours per week, sometimes 60, but yeah, mostly 50. So a quick overview of the resources I used. First and by far the most important thing when it comes to any USMLE exam is the QBank. You have to have a QBank. This is a must. There's no negotiation here. I used World as my main Q bank. I used Amboss towards the end. I didn't really rely on Amboss. Just like just I did about 25% of the questions and didn't even read the explanation. I was just bored towards the end. I wanted to do something extra, so I just did Amboss. But I don't really recommend it. Just one is more than enough. Okay, either World or Amboss, both are fine. For text, I used First Aid. First Aid, of course, I don't need to speak about First Aid. It's by far the most high source out there. Amazing, really. Bathoma I used it, but Bathoma wasn't really. I liked Bathoma. Okay, I liked his ways of explaining things, and I mean, I even watched his videos, his lectures, all of them. I watched them, even though they didn't really affect my score that much, but it was really fun and very informative. So I kind of enjoyed it. I don't say that everybody has to do Pathoma, but everybody has to do a QBank. This is a must. Everybody has to do first aid. I think it's a must in my opinion. First aid is a must as well. I did BMB. There are many sources, bootcamp and a million sources out there. I did BMB. I liked it. It was amazing. I did Physio for Physiology. Physio for Physiology is, I think, an underrated source. It's amazing, really, and it really helped my score tremendously. And I will speak about that in a minute in more details. It is sketchy for micro and pharma, of course. I don't recommend sketchy for patho. I don't think patho really needs sketchy. I think patho is by far the most important thing in the exam and the most heavily tested subject in the exam. So I think I don't think sketchy is enough for patho, in my opinion, of course. Some extra stuff I did was dirty medicine. I like this guy. He's amazing. I think all his videos and everything is great. Andy Naila did his videos on biostat and also on genetics. It was good. It wasn't great, but it was good. Yeah, it was fun to watch. Melman, I only did genetics. I did many Melman files. I didn't find them useful, and I will talk about that in a minute. But the only file that I remember was very useful for me was the genetics file. It was really great. Yeah. Anki, I didn't dedicate a specific amount of time to Anki, but I did Anki when I was tired or when I was in the subway or whatnot. So I did some Nemozina deck. It's a great deck. It's basically the first aid divided into cards, so it was really helpful. Sketchy Pepper, yeah, I relied on Sketchy Pepper heavily. It was part of the of studying Sketchy. I would watch the video and then I would go and do the Anki about that video. And then towards the end, of course, I reviewed the. So the first 40 days of my prep, I rushed through first aid and BNB, of course, to finish the whole first aid, and just 40 days, I was obviously scanning through the whole thing. Pretty much not retaining any information, but I always did this, even in med school. I always did this. I like the first read of the first time I read something to be just just scanning through the whole thing, deciding yeah this is important, this seems too hard, maybe this will need just sorting out things. This is what I do always. So and I did New World after each chapter. My average score in New World was between 40% and 70%, depending on the chapter. For, let's say, GIT, for example, I got 70s, of course, because it was easy. But for biochemistry, or let's say neuro, hematology as well, I was very bad in hematology. I don't know why. I got 40s, so yeah. Of course, the 40s were very sad and depressing, but yeah. I was more I had in my mind that I want to finish this thing as quickly as possible, so I ignored a lot of bad emotions I got along the way. So yeah, my overall average was 50. Immediately after I finished my first read was basically like I said in the previous slide. I did the first aid and B&B and did about 50% of yours within an average score of 50% as well. And then decided to take my first MBME, which of course I failed. Obviously, I scored about I think 57% if I remember correctly. Yeah, it was quite depressing. After that MBME that I failed, I spent about a month. Okay, I said to myself and of course my friends and my mentors that okay, maybe I need some more time. So I decided to not take the next MBME until a month has passed, and I was going to do all the high yield stuff in this month. So what I did was what I read on social media, which was do Melvin files and do your world random. And I only improved by 4%. I think I scored 61 or something like that on the next MBME, which is a good score. It's not I didn't fail, but it still 1 month, a whole 1 month, and only 4% of improvement. That was quite also depressing. Like so the third MBME and the most important MBME was for me 24. It was 2 weeks after the 23, I think. I'm not sure what was the one previous, but it was my score was 61%, and on the third MBE my score became 69%, which is was a very nice day and a very joyful day. So what I did in those 2 weeks, what I did is I reviewed all of the first aid, especially of course focusing on my weakest areas. Mainly was, of course, it's different for everyone. Everyone has his own weak areas, but for me it was heme, it was neuro, of course, some biochemistry. Even though biochemistry didn't really impact the score that much, I think MSK was also a big weak area for me, and many more. Yeah, but the basic thing I did was, I focused mainly on my weakest areas, and I reviewed them from the first aid. I didn't try to do any Melvin files no more. I was trying. I gave them many chances, but they were just not helping me. So I figured maybe they're not for me. So I went back to the first aid and I reviewed it. I did a lot, of course, of your random as well, and at this point, I started doing your random very thoroughly. I started reading all the explanations. I didn't do this before. I know that you're supposed to do that to do this from day one, but I didn't. I was just mainly scanning through your world. When it came to these 2 weeks, yeah, this is where I really started doing your world, and I started doing. Of course, all was random, and I focused on every mistake, and I focused on every explanation, and I read everything, and yeah. Also, one other thing I did was this is when I did physio and pathoma. Pathoma honestly wasn't really that high yield for me. Maybe because most of the stuff that he focused on, I already knew, so maybe that's the reason. But physio, on the other hand, it explained MSK very well. It explained neuroanatomy very well. So many of my weakest. Yeah, and Pathoma, yeah, I remember now. And Pathoma for him was quite helpful. Yeah, so yeah, basically it was a mix of everything to try to attack my weak areas. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, for those 2 weeks, they were very intense. I studied very hard. Maybe I think this is the first time I got 70 hours per week on my study bunny. So yeah, those 2 weeks were very, very tough, but it was rewarded with my first verse. After that, my fourth MBME was 25, and I scored, I think, 67%, I think. So yeah, it was. This is one other thing. As long as your score is consistent, this is a good sign. If you get 72, and then you get 62, and then you get let's say I don't know 65, this isn't the best thing. This is good. This is still a good score, but the fluctuation isn't good when it comes to the MBMEs. If your score, if all of your scores are in close range, 65, then 66, then say 64, then the more close they are to each other, this means that you're actually doing them right, okay? Because yeah, some people say that maybe Form 28 was very hard, or Form 29 was very hard. They're all the same, okay? They're all the same difficulty, okay? The reason somebody felt that this was hard or that was hard. I don't know why, but they're all the same standard difficulty. So the exam will feel like any one of them. Okay, some people want to know, and this question especially, people say, what was the exam more similar to? Nothing. Okay, it was similar to nothing. It's a mix of everything. It's like the MBME. It's like UWorld. It's like AMBOSS. It's like everything. It's question. It's an exam. Okay, so there's no form in particular that you will find the exam most similar to, but what you should aim for is a consistent. This is very important. Consistent passing score. Okay, sorry. So a consistent passing score. This is what you should aim for. Passing score, a safe. Of course, a passing score is 60, but as safe as most people try to go and shoot for plus 65 plus. Many people recommend 70 plus. I'm one of these people. I think 70 plus is a must. Yeah, in my opinion, of course. Yeah, but try to get a good score and also to be consistent with your scores. Okay, if your scores are not consistent, if they are too far away, there's something not quite right. So anyway, yeah, my fourth MME, I continued to do random and continued to review. My score was dropped by 2 points. I don't think that means anything really. If as long as it's plus or minus 2 to 3 points, it doesn't mean. So the next form, I believe, was 26, and I got my first 70 plus. Yes, I got, I think 70 or 72 or something like that. Yeah. It was, yeah, it's always a nice memory, the first 70, and you feel that, yeah, I'm gonna pass this exam, etc., etc., and then you cry, and yeah, it's a mix of emotion, but it was a nice day. I didn't do anything different. Just continued my world and reviewing first aid, basically. Yeah. This is a fairly common question for my last four of MBMEs. I think I was ranging between 78 and 81. And a very common question people ask is how to jump from the 70 to 80%. First of all, we want to ask, do you have to jump from 70 to 80? And my answer is no. Okay, you don't have to. You don't have to. As long as you're, in the 70s range and consistent, like score 70 on three or multiple for different forms. Yeah, I think that's more than enough to pass the exam. If you want to feel better about yourself or something, and whatever reason you want to just, maybe your friend got an 80 and you don't want him to be better than you, then you want to jump to 80. Yeah, okay. For me, what helped me do that was you were incorrect. This is the number one thing that helped. Of course, many other things, and of course, alongside revision and sketchy and everything, and mainly focusing on weak areas. Sorry, mainly focusing on weak areas and subjects. Yeah, but the main thing was you were incorrect and attacking them, fiercely, because um, reading every explanation, reading every word, and reviewing when I find something, treating, let's say, and in other words, treating you word incorrect as they were MBME incorrect. Okay, so every question I get wrong, I would go back to first aid and review it. It was a lot of work, and I don't think that it was quite. After I achieved my 80, I think it was in the last form, 31. I got about 81, and then I had, I think, 2 weeks to spare before the exam. I didn't know what to do, and I finished everything. So what I did was, I did 25% of AMBOSS. Why? I don't know. Okay, I have no idea, but I had a lot of free time. Okay. I did 15% of the 200 AMBOSS queues. These are more common for step 2, and for good reasons, because you don't want to do them for step 1. Step 1 is only pass fail, so you don't want to pay too much attention or spend too much time on it. So, but I did about 10% or 15% of them. I watched a lot of dirty videos to pass the time. Yeah, especially the pharma and micro. They were pharma especially. Yeah, I watched it, I think, 2 times. The playlist. It was really fun. And of course, I reviewed my. Sorry about that. I reviewed my paper decks as well, the sketchy decks for Pharma Micro. That was also very helpful. Yeah, I think we're done here. So this is a summary of my scores. As you can see, you can look at them if you want. I did your self-assessments. I don't recommend them. Absolutely not. I didn't even review them. Okay, they're good predictors, but they're not. I don't know. I just didn't like them. I don't know. And yeah, a special thanks to my mentors, Nagam Nader, my dear friend, and Omar Fawaz, my dear friend. They both were My Of course I had a lot of help, a lot of help is an understatement. I had a massive amount of help, but these two especially were very helpful, and yeah, so I want to thank them. Uh, yeah,